The Italian Wine Podcast is introducing a new donation drive this month. It's called Why Am I a Fan? We are encouraging anyone who tunes in on a regular basis to send us your 10-second video on why you are a fan of our podcast network or a specific show. We will then share your thoughts with the world with the goal of garnering support for our donation drive. Italian Wine Podcast is a publicly funded, sponsor-driven enterprise that needs you in order to continue to receive awesome free wine edutainment 7 days a week. We are asking our listeners to donate to the Italian Wine Podcast by clicking either the GoFundMe link or the Patreon link found on italianwinepodcast.com. Remember, if you sign up as a monthly donor on our Patreon, we will send you a free IWP t-shirt and a copy of the Wine Democracy book, the newest Mama Jumbo Shrimp publication.
Hello, everybody. My name is Polly Hammond, and you are listening to Uncorked, the Italian wine podcast series about all things marketing and communication. Join me each week for candid conversations with experts from within and beyond the wine world as we explore what it takes to build a profitable business in today's constantly shifting environment. In this, our last Uncorked episode of the year, we are showcasing a very special initiative that brings stories, community, and purpose together for good. I'm pleased to welcome Ryan MacDonnell Bracher to the show. Alongside her brother Miles, Ryan is the second-generation leadership at ultra-premium Napa brand Round Pond Estate. Weeks ago, they launched the Honorin Project to bring awareness, togetherness, and funding to support Alzheimer's research. Today, we talk about their family journey to wine, how communication was key to succession planning, and how they've turned their family's experience into a deeply personal initiative that supports a greater good. Let's get into it. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me this morning on this, my last episode for the Italian Wine Podcast. I have you here for a very special reason, but I don't think we're going to get to that until later in this episode. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you are second generation owner, operator of Round Pond Estate. For everyone who's listening, we've got a big European audience. Can you just tell us a little bit about Round Pond and kind of what sets you apart from some of your Napa Sonoma neighbors?
Sure. So Round Pond, for us is a family business, as you said. We've been in Napa Valley since 1983. Actually, we were in Napa Valley starting in the late 70s, but where we are now, sort of physically, we're down on the valley floor. And, this was a love of my dad's. He wanted to be a farmer, sort of in his real life. Unfortunately, he never really got that chance other than through Round Pond initially. Selling the grapes. And that's what we did for the first 20, 30 years of our existence when mom and dad were running the business. And when Miles and I joined, which was in 2000, we started sort of envision that we had a special opportunity to make wine. And, we have this incredible piece of property, which is, super lucky in Rutherford, in the Napa Valley, on the valley floor. And we realized that, not only did we have the vineyards, but if we were able to build a winery and have the selection from those vineyards to actually create our own wine, that we, would have an opportunity to do something special. So that was sort of what we envisioned and why we started.
But it didn't start out with wine, is my understanding. I actually love this story that as children, you played in the original property. Your family would camp on the original property. Because I know that you have an ultra premium property that's written up all over the place, but it actually was a real, I'm going to just use the word down home family effort in the late 70s and early 80s.
Right.
So you started out with olives, is that right?
Yeah, so we actually, initially there was nothing on the property. We would camp, we'd go up, there was just a platform, an old wooden platform. And so my dad would take us, and really the real reason was, there were 4 of us kids and my mom was exhausted by the weekend. And so my dad would put us all in the car and take us away to give my mom a bit of a break. And so, she loved her Saturday morning with her coffee and getting to relax. And then we'd head out and go up and, into the Napa Valley and into the hills and camp for the weekend. And so that was sort of our first exposure. And
what was it about olives that your dad, who wanted to be a farmer, was like, right, here's what we're doing, kids?
Sure. Well, so the way it really started was the vineyards, right? So we had the vineyards and we had the farming business, from, 82 to ongoing. So we still have that. And so in about, I think it was 1995, my dad had this idea to recreate what he had experienced, he and my mom had experienced when they were younger. They would come up to the Napa Valley in their 20s and 30s, and there was this old olive mill where they would go and fill up a jug of oil and bring it back to the city to enjoy. And so he had this vision that, hey, let's recreate something like that can be a community resource and people can come and, have this fresh product that's so incredible. And so that's why we initially did it. And we built a whole olive mill and have an incredible stone mill and a centrifuge and the whole process where we now can make our own oil. And so that was sort of the genesis of the project.
Wow. So I understand that to this day, along with the olive oil, there's also a really strong farming component that runs along with, we've got the grape growing and we've got the olive oil, but in fact, you've got a full garden on site. Is that correct?
We do. My mom has a huge passion for the land and for gardening. And so we've always had a very big personal garden at Round Pond where, the family goes and gathers and we use for everything, for cooking and produce and all of that. And so I think it was in 2010, we decided to sort of replicate that for the winery itself so that consumers could come to the winery and walk through the garden and pick, the fresh produce from the land. And so
what do you grow?
Oh my gosh, we grow so many different things. You kind of, we grow it, you name it, we grow it. Everything from zucchini and cherries. And we've got, avocados, which are difficult to grow here, but we do have a few plants. We've got.
Does that bring the millennials to you? The avocados?
Right, their avocado joke.
I had to make the avocado joke.
Right. I mean, honestly, so many different things I can't even tell you. And right now it's all, winter lettuces and chards and kales and things like that. But come summer, it's, all of the usual summer produce, which is wonderful.
So because I do have to talk about business a little bit, is that actually a commercial component that people can come strictly for the farming side of the property, even if they're, not wine lover? Do you sell that produce, or is it strictly experiential?
It's really strictly experiential. We have at times sold some of that produce to restaurants, locally so that they can use it. But really, it's part of the experience for people who visit Round Pond. Not only can they go out to the garden and pick the produce themselves, but they can also experience that in all of their tastings. We have a beautiful Il Pranzo lunch that we do where people can, taste through all of the produce and not only the olive oils and everything else and the wines, of course, that come from the property, but the food as well.
So, second generation, in that process, when you and your brother Miles took over or when you were not necessarily took over, but when you were, becoming more involved in it and making some of those business decisions, how did that work between you and your parents? Is it you saying, hey, we see a real opportunity, we can build this, we can grow it in this direction? Was it, kind of the light bulb came on for everyone all at once? What did that process of succession look like?
Sure. Well, it's so interesting. So there's a couple of things there. So Dad, first of all, was such an amazing mentor and leader. And throughout our childhood, we grew up with his sort of lectures, as we called them. And so we always had this sort of incredible advice coming at us, that could be applied to business, but really was sort of life advice, like, follow up. If you don't care who gets the credit, you'll be fine. Take care of people. It was all this kind of stuff. And so, so we sort of had that in the back of our minds as we were getting going. And part of that, I think, is spending a lot of time thinking about how do you plan for succession and how do you pass from one generation to the next. And so he was very willing to say, pass the buck to the next generation, because I think he knew that so often, that is the source of conflict in families. And that's often why businesses don't, transition successfully from one generation to the next. So
yeah. And that's why I'm asking, because it can be a huge problem. Either we just kind of stick our heads in the sand about it, or, there's contention. So to hear that this started early on is fabulous. Yeah.
So he had no problem letting go. Yeah. Yeah. And, I think he had a lot of faith in us, and he allowed us to make a lot of mistakes, which I think you have to do in order to sort of evolve and be successful.
Probably helps that there were 4 of you. I think that the more children you have, the more you just embrace the fact that, all right, we're going to learn some things, the brute force method. It's just, it's not going to always be smooth sailing. So you've got, you and your brother came in to kind of take on to take the torch, to carry the baton.
Yes.
Was there ever this moment when you just looked at each other and you're like, come on, don't you want to bail? Don't you want to go live in Costa Rica? What are we thinking? Why are we continuing this wine journey? We're going to go make pickles. We're off.
Right. Well, wine is a tough business, and olive oil is an even tougher business. And that's mostly because of the process of making the product. It takes a very, very long time, right? So with wine, you're in the ground planting, it's really not until your 7th year that you get a fantastic crop that, the winemakers are happy with. And then after that, you don't release the wine for another 3 years. So it's really a 10-year venture. So there are definitely a lot of moments along the way where you're thinking to yourself, look, why didn't I go into high tech and, make $1 billion overnight? And how come we're doing
this? We work so hard. Why do we work so hard? Yeah.
But, it's so soul satisfying in so many ways. And there's just really nothing like being able to put your, hands in the dirt and feel like you're creating something from nothing, both as far as the product is concerned, but also as far as building a business and building it with your family. So.
Well, that's a really nice segue, because one of the reasons that ultimately I invited you on the show is that you have a fabulous marketing team. It's one of those things that we notice, like, just the content's great, the email's good, the comms are outstanding. So I would say for anybody listening, if you want a real masterclass on good email communications, you need to go and subscribe to the Round Pond email. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But having this history, in Napa, and of course, we've got articles coming out now about how expensive Napa has become, and how the environment, the tourism environment, and even just the residential environment has changed so much. Are there any kind of standout changes that you could talk about to marketing an ultra premium brand in Napa, and then of course in the era of D2C, getting that beyond Napa?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really interesting. I would say, COVID obviously propelled a lot of people and businesses forward, or not, right? So I think we all realized we had to embrace this. And one of the things I think that happens in the wine business is that it's very easy to be complacent and sort of happy with where you are and rest on your laurels. And I think brands can become very tired that way. And so, from the get-go, we've always said we don't ever want to be that old, tired brand. And so every opportunity that we, can find, we try and propel ourselves forward in some sort of an interesting way. And so COVID was one of those ways, digitally, of course, where we could. And so we had always talked about doing, Zoom tastings and sort of bringing our product to our club members, for instance, that live in Wisconsin or abroad or wherever it was, and who couldn't necessarily get to visit us. And so it was, as you said, sort of a master class in overnight, how do we do this and how do we do it well? And so, I'm super proud of our team for leaning into that and figuring out what we can do and how we can stay relevant and interesting as a brand.
Is some of it risk taking? Is it, saying we have no idea if this is going to work or not? And if so, how do you balance that being, a legacy brand, really? Is there a fear? Are you constantly kind of guarding the brand that you're like, we just have to be so careful that everything that we do is either perfectly on brand, or is it because we're a legacy brand, we have so much freedom to actually try things that maybe we couldn't if we just started out?
Well, it's interesting because, I don't think of us as a legacy brand. I think of us as a young, sort of newish brand. And because when in Napa Valley, there's so many, companies that have been around for, many, many generations. And so I guess that gives us the freedom. I feel like we have the freedom to take risks. And as Dad used to say, throw things up against the wall and see what sticks. And to me, that's the only way. If you don't take risks, you're not going to be able to try new things and experiment. And of course, you make mistakes along the way, but that's okay. Most things you can recover from. So,
right. Well, in the context of digital, I have to say I was pretty impressed because you have a YouTube channel that dates back 12 years. And I know that I'm forever saying to clients, can you please embrace video? Just come on a little. And they're like, no video, no YouTube. And I was like, wow, you've been doing that a long time.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we've been trying, like I said, I think it's one of our sort of guiding principles is that, we want to understand what's coming and what's relevant to our consumer and how we can best reach them. And so, of course, we have a lot to learn. My next venture that I want to understand and figure out is the whole NFT market and how can we as a winery sort of enter that, and what does that mean? And I don't know yet, but there's got to be something.
I think anybody that tells you they do know is full of it. We've interviewed a handful of people about NFTs on this podcast, as I know many of my colleagues on the podcast have as well. And I come away from every one of those interviews probably more confused than I went into it, just saying, is it art? I mean, I'm really just totally lost on that. Now, that having been said, I did ask you on for a very special reason, which is along with possibly NFTs and some of the other things you're doing, you have just launched a new initiative at Round Pond. And I would love it if you could just talk to us a little bit about that. And I will try not to get weepy, but if I mute myself, that's why.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so excited. For me, this really brings me personally full circle. I got involved with Round Pond when I was very young, and I'd had some health issues and was really thinking about what was important to me in life and where I wanted to end up, and wanted to be able to give back. And so, as we've talked about, the wine business is a difficult business. So it's taken us a long time, 20 years. But I feel like, finally through our new project, it's called Honorin, which is dedicated to raising funds for people with Alzheimer's. We can finally do that. So sort of on a personal level, I'm just so thrilled and excited. On another personal level, this is really to honor not only my dad, we lost to Alzheimer's last year, May of 2021, after a really long battle. And it had been such a difficult journey for us as a family. It had been 10 years at least of going through this process. And so after he finally passed, we knew that we wanted to do something more. And so we have created this wine. It's called Honorin, which means guardian, or, to show and pay respect to. And so I'm really excited not only to honor Dad, but also to honor all of the other people so many families struggling with this disease, and to honor them and to raise awareness so that, we can support each other and raise funds and awareness.
That's a deeply personal thing to go out to the public with. How have you embraced the experience, or what has been the reception as you go out into the world and you actually talk about the fact that this was 10 years, that it was so challenging and it was so much work? Has it been all good? Has it been just liberating? Has it been like, experiencing trauma in public?
I think it has been, for me, so cathartic. And the thing that's been most surprising is how many people are going through this. I mean, I can't tell you the number of emails and calls and conversations I've had with people who are either in the midst of this or have lost someone. It's so unbelievably pervasive. And the fact that as a society, we don't talk about it more. I think it's becoming more acceptable to talk about these things. But I know when Dad initially was diagnosed, we had this weird sense of stigma and shame about it. And we sort of went through this whole process of not talking about it, and then having to come to terms and accepting it ourselves. And so I guess if we can help people to have those conversations and to feel okay, I feel like not feeling alone through the process will, in and of itself, help people to deal with it, because it's so difficult and painful. And for some reason, we isolate ourselves and we don't talk about it together. So to the extent that we can get people to share their stories, I do think it will be, help as much as it can.
And having people share their stories is a part of the project. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so excited about the label itself. So as we were thinking about this, we didn't want to just honor Dad. We wanted to honor everybody. As I said, it became very clear how many people are going through this and sort of talking more about this. And so the label itself is going to have the faces and images of other people who have either been lost or are struggling with Alzheimer's. And so on our website, we have a place where people can submit the images and then tell the stories of these people, either of their journey or of the person they were before they, struggled with Alzheimer's. And there's just something so incredible about telling those stories. And then, of course, reading those stories, they make me cry every day as I read them. But I do feel like for people, it's helpful to them, and it's, giving them a voice where they've been silenced.
And what do you envision doing with those stories? We know that the photos are going on the label. Is there a bit more storytelling coming in the days and years ahead?
Yes. So in my mind, I envision, having the label and then maybe having something on our site where you can scroll over each, person's image, and then that will, pop up their story, something like that. This is sort of where the whole NFT idea is, maybe we have these poster size, labels where people can actually see the images clearly of their loved one, and then, have that for all eternity or whatever, live digitally, and then maybe live in some poster style format available as well. So
Right.
maybe a piece of artwork.
And this is the first year, is that correct, that you've done this? It is. But
Yeah. So
is it going to be a year on year, or is it just a one-off experience?
No, we're really excited. So we have been working with the Alzheimer's Association here to raise funds for the last couple of years.
And go ahead and tell us, you've raised a fair bit. How much has Round Pond raised?
Yes. Yeah, no. So last year we were able to raise $70,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. And then this coming year, 2022, we hope to be able to donate $100,000, which is fantastic. And we've just gone through a November promotion, fully committed to Alzheimer's awareness. And so we're putting those numbers together now, but I expect it'll be around 100,000. And then with Honorin, the project, we really hope to do this every year. We'll release a wine called Honorin in honor and in support of the Alzheimer's, funding and awareness. And so we're hoping next year, if we're successful, and I intend to be, we will raise $250,000 for the Alzheimer's cause.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
And then the sky is the limit from there. We hope to grow every year.
So we are in an era where every brand is being told that they need purpose, they need value driven, that they need something beyond just profits to motivate them. Round Pond made a really personal decision on that. What would you say to brands who are listening, who are thinking, I would like to be purposeful, but I'm afraid that maybe my purpose isn't the purpose that everybody else is jumping into and talking about right now? If it is something deeply personal, do you have any advice for them about how to culturally make that happen and how to communicate that to an audience?
Sure. Well, I think it has to be deeply personal to be meaningful, right? Like you said, I think from a branding perspective, a lot of companies are going after the ESG, motto, and if it's not authentic and real, the consumer will know that. So I guess my recommendation would be to pick something that is deeply personal, and it will resonate with everybody. And, it can be something that's really personal amongst your staff. It can be something that maybe you've experienced. But like I said, I've been amazed at the outreach and support we've received from people who are going through this. And so I imagine that anyone that endeavors to do something for the right reasons will feel the same way, even if it's a less well-known
or even
cause.
If it's not safe. Because I think that that's something that we really encounter in alcohol, is that this notion of we kind of need to be safe. I'll give an example. This was from probably 10 years ago. I remember being on a wine site, and there was like an Easter egg on the site that was how to send. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it was basically click this button to change the screen immediately. And it was something that indicated, that generally it was a domestic violence or domestic abuse situation. And there are so many things in terms of mental health, safety and security, that I think are a lot of brands, whether they're wine or not, don't know how to message or don't know how to go out to the public with, because by and large, we want to pick things that feel good. And in your case, you've picked something that your outcome is wonderful, but possibly, especially in their early days, talking about it is not like the biggest feel good moment you've ever had.
Absolutely. But, even the things that are most difficult to talk about, I think those are the things we need to talk about the most, right? Because you are somehow more isolated and alone, whether it's mental health issues or domestic abuse or those things. And it's that siloing that makes it so horrific and makes it so difficult for people. So, maybe those are the issues we all need to be tackling the most.
Probably. So just moving forward, Honorin right now, is it in bottle? When does it become available to drink? And how do you decide whose pictures to put on it? I mean, you're going to have years and years and years worth of pictures.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, again, it's, like I said, it's the whole learning process. So we are in the process of designing the label now. In fact, our designer is just taking all of the images that we have submitted. And so we're basically going to set a deadline of the end of the year. And we're going to take all the images that come in and work with those to put them on the label. And then, of course, any images that come in after that, we can look at putting on, the 2022 bottling. So the Honorin 2021, which is the first vintage, will come out, be released in November. But we will have, an ability, I think, for people to purchase it before that, just throughout the year, next year, in order to start to raise awareness for it.
And beyond Honorin, what's in store for Round Pond in the year ahead?
Well, I'm also super excited about our sustainability initiatives. And I know that's sort of hokey, or maybe everyone's focused on that right now, but we've made a huge decision for Round Pond to switch to lighter weight glass.
Wow.
Which in the industry, it sounds like, if you don't know the industry, is not a big deal, but it is, because often, heavy, big glass is associated with, quality wine. And so we've decided we're going to buck that trend and do something for the planet and start putting all of our wine in much lighter weight glass. And so that's just one of the many.
Can I jump in and say thank you?
But
Thank you, because we need premium and super premium and ultra premium brands doing that, because, that's where we change that opinion about the high weight equals the high quality, which we all know. Look, I'm going to love your wine, but I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to drink it. I want to drink wine. And really that's the hurdle that we have to jump, is accepting that so much of the wine, even our fabulous super premium wines, we really want to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Most people, they buy a wine and they drink it that night. I mean, I think the statistics are
exactly
pretty clear that way. But, so I agree with you. I think we need to make these leaps, and we feel as a company that our customers, for the most part, will understand that it's more important to save the planet than to drink out of a really heavy bottle, and that doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the wine itself. So, we're making that leap and hoping our customers will come along with us.
With that in mind, are you seeing younger and younger customers? Because obviously our younger customers are completely like onto it with the lighter weight bottles. We don't have to explain that to them. It's so often kind of our older, boomer, elder Gen Xers who are still hardcore on the heavy bottles.
Yeah, we are, for sure. But we're an expensive wine. So we are more and more appealing, I think, to the millennials and to the, the younger generations. But it is expensive. And so I'm hoping, as they come up through the world and their resources are better, they'll be able to, join the Round Pond brand more. But we're even hoping, our baby boomers will come along with us with this crazy decision.
Well, they have to, because they have grandchildren who are giving them a ton of shit if they don't. That's really it. Like every boomer I know is learning from their grandchildren. So you've got that. You've got an extensive events and gifting portfolio, correct?
We do. Our events are amazing here on site at Round Pond, and we can host anything from small groups up to multiple hundreds of people in a barn that we have here on site, but which is really fun, and an incredible team that puts that all together. And then we've got a great hospitality program where we love to have people as well, and just to come in and taste. And the whole sort of ethos of that is that it's a very approachable, sort of humble, hopefully, experience, but in a very elegant setting, so people can come and not feel the hubris of wine or any of that, but just enjoy a wonderful, high quality experience.
Oh, that's fabulous. Ryan, thank you so much. I'm really grateful to you for coming on. We both made it through without crying, which I think is a huge high five. So for anyone,
huge high five.
Anyone who would like to know more about Round Pond and specifically the Honorin Initiative, where do they go?
So specifically, they can come to our website, roundpond.com. Very simple. And, you'll be able to go to our mission page, and you'll be able to see all of our initiatives, both for Honorin and sustainability. And you'll be able to submit a photo if anyone wants to. We'd be so honored to tell, your loved one's story. And so submit a photo there and feel free, but don't feel obligated to tell their story so that we can put it out for the world to know as well.
And on top of that, I will just say I found that you have a very lovely YouTube video about this initiative as well. So we can find you at Round Pond Estate on YouTube, and 12 years worth of storytelling right then and there. So it's a really great resource for anyone who's trying to learn about the brand and what you're up to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. I will let you get on with your day at this holiday season when I know you're probably swamped.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here.
And that's a wrap on our very last episode of Uncorked. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining me today. Thank you to all the listeners who have supported this podcast. And an enormous thank you to Joy, Leica, and the podcast team for making all of this possible. The Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world and the only one with daily episodes. Tune in each day and discover all our different shows. Be sure to join us next Sunday for another look at the world of wine marketing.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.